Welcome to Unit 8, Chart Patterns. What are they? Okay, so why am I wasting time addressing chart patterns? When I started out, when I was trading, I eventually found chart patterns, but it wasn't until much later until I discovered or I understood how they form and why they form and what they actually represent. We need to address the patterns in general, that they establish a foundation. The main thing that I want you to take from this are what are patterns, and it's very, very simple. One of two things. They are either accumulation or distribution. It's kind of funny how that we've been leading up so far with just the idea of market phases, and we've started taking more and more concepts, and it's kind of interesting how they all kind of go back to the simplified approach that Wyckoff beautifully established way back almost 100 years ago, and Dow established, and all these guys that came way before us established these ideas technical chartists use today. So again, the two things, accumulation or distribution, are what patterns fall into. You've got different types. You've got a rising wedge, you've got head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders, falling wedges, so on and so on. They're basically all the same. Okay, so typically when I trade, what I look for, when I do look at patterns, I understand that they're telling me accumulation is happening or distribution is happening, and that I should probably start paying attention to the trend, start looking for price to sort of reverse or at least retrace. I typically like to use wedge patterns. I find that they are the easiest to recognize and are more successful for me. You get more complex patterns like head and shoulders you see on the charts. You get much more complex patterns. Every pattern has a probability for success or failure. You can deduce what's going to happen through proper analysis by using multiple time frames, by understanding the trend. But you need to understand what's actually happening. How many times have you heard someone say, hey, it looks like a double bottom's forming, guys, or that's bullish, isn't it? Or it looks like a double top is forming. That's bearish, right? But you know, the probabilities in this market aren't very good, so I'm not going to trade it. You hear things like that all the time, and there's flawed logic in that. It has nothing to do with the pattern. What it really says is it speaks volumes to the lack of the trader's understanding. They don't understand the how and why a pattern formed. You need to recognize that there's absolutely nothing wrong with studying chart patterns as long as you recognize what they really are, accumulation and distribution. Because if you know that, then you know the how and the why. You have truly gained knowledge and understanding when you look at the chart, which is your goal. You want to understand what's happening so that you can attempt to profit from it. So if you just recognize the pattern alone, it doesn't do very much for you. Yeah, maybe you figured out that the internet says, okay, if this is a bullish pattern, then the reaction will be bullish. But that doesn't necessarily happen, and it doesn't give you true understanding. So you're not able to anticipate larger moves in the market. So logically, if you can spot accumulation, then it would be ill-advised for you to start looking for short entries. Just as if you spot distribution, it would be ill-advised for you to start looking for long trades. Pretty simple. That's really all there is with this lesson, guys. It's not that difficult. I just want you to pay attention that patterns exist. It's an avenue that a lot of traders, when they're new, they start learning about. By all means, familiarize yourself with these patterns and learn them, but keep in mind what it really is. It's really one of three things: accumulation, distribution, or sometimes you have patterns that form like flags and things like that that are continuations. They happen during the trending phase. So an example would be of a continuation pattern might be this wedge. So these are all the little nuances that you would learn that you'll be able to put together with trend and accumulation distribution, how in time frames, all the stuff we're going to get into. But keep that in mind for this lesson. I want you to understand that there are patterns, there are accumulation and distribution. So if you learn nothing else, learn that.